sad about going home, Beau? Must feel totally unreal.
I'm supposed to be leaving.
I don't know if that's gonna happen.
Do you want the truth now?
Hello and welcome back to We Boat. I'm Mike. A Beau Culture Beaucast. Talking Beau Is Afraid.
Beau.
The new movie from Ari Aster, A24, Joaquin Phoenix, and a bunch of other people. I'm afraid. My name's Ernest.
I'm really scared. My name is Hunter.
I'm Dro.
Dro.
We saw this movie in an IMAX screening.
The big boy. The full-size IMAX. All the way up in there.
That is like watching I think the difference between watching in like a normal theater and an IMAX theater is like bigger than the difference between like a normal theater and at home.
Yeah.
It's such a big difference.
Yeah,
so I feel like
massive screen.
I feel like it's hard to, I don't even know like how it would play on like a regular, like that shit is just so loud and huge. I don't know.
There's shots where you're just like all up in Joaquin's face and you're just like,
some shots
God.
where you're literally inside of another human being.
So yeah, it's because this is A24. The budget was $35 million, I believe we figured out.
Which I believe makes it A24's highest budget movie to date.
This is, I mean, much like Everything Everywhere, you would guess much higher. This is like a 3-hour long epic type movie. Not epic in the sense of like The Green Knight or something, but
it's a big boy.
It is an insane movie. And it is really, really well directed. Ari Aster, he cooked me a little bit with this one.
Yeah, man. I feel like I'm still processing it. We just saw it 2 days ago, and I'm definitely going to want to watch it a second time. I feel like I'll be more okay. Well, I don't know. This movie has some fucked up shit in it, but Hereditary and Midsommar, I've been like apprehensive to revisit because of how of a scaredy cat I am, and like those movies are freaky deaky. This one is like more on the funny side, like rip-roaring funny side, but it does have some horrifying stuff. I do think I will probably want to rewatch this one because it's not like in a lot of ways as traumatizing, but then again, it is very long. But I'm processing it, and I feel like a second viewing will help me process even more. I don't know if this is my favorite Ari Aster movie, but it is certainly his most ambitious, and in a lot of ways his most effective in like what a director can do in terms of scale for his own fucked up ideas. Like he is really digging deep with some of the imagery and some of the concepts, and they're done in such a unique and creative way. The story we'll get into, I think, leaves a lot of question marks, but the craft is unbelievable. There are things in this movie that I've just never seen before. Yeah. It's a wholly unique experience. So even if you're in the bag for Ari Aster, even if you're in the bag for like weird, fucked up, delusional filmmaking, there might be some stuff that like you might have some questions about, but this is a movie unlike anything else. So just on that level, just of going in and seeing something that is fully creative unlike anything else, I think it delivers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I have some question marks that we'll get into.
That's fair. I have been thinking about this movie like pretty much nonstop since watching it. I don't know about you guys, but like I have been racking my brain through like every little thing about this movie. Like I found like a little plot summary online just so I could like think through and be like, oh yeah, and then that led to this and this and this, just to kind of like remind myself of everything that this movie is trying to say. Really leaving the screening, there was two movies that I kept thinking about, and kind of for different reasons. One of them is I'm thinking of Ending Things.
Yeah,
Definitely.
The Kaufman film from a couple years ago, which is one of my favorite movies of 2020. That has a lot of this kind of manic, unreliable narrator. Kind of a movie that you are actively putting the pieces of the puzzle together as you're watching it. Dare I say Lynchian? I don't even want to say that, but it has like some of those elements where it's horror, but unlike in something like Hereditary, for example, it's more about the trauma and the feeling that unsettling nature that it's putting inside of you. I think that Midsommar doesn't have that same kind of traditional horror elements to it that Hereditary does. Midsommar also is kind of movie that's about exploring your relationships with significant others, and a movie about gaslighting. And I think that movie is definitely a lot, I'll say tighter than this, but really coming out of Beau Is Afraid, and this might be a little bit of an odd comparison, this movie made me feel how I felt while watching Babylon last year.
Yeah.
Which is just like...
Which some people have been saying in a negative way. I've seen some reviews.
But here's the thing. This is just like one of those things where I mean, Beau Is Afraid is Ari's third movie. Babylon was Damien's fourth movie, but in a way they're kind of at a similar point in their career. I know Damien obviously has a Best Director Oscar, but they both kind of have carte blanche from the studio that they're associated with at this point. And they're just like, all right, I'm just going to fucking go for it. I'm not going to hold anything back. I'm going to do everything on my mind that I want to do.
Yeah,
and there's something that is so audacious about what this movie is getting across.
It's such a swing.
What it is, everything that it's trying to express. And we'll talk about how the pieces come together, because I've actually I've warmed up, especially to the ending of this movie in the last couple of days as I've thought about it more. But I really love this movie. And this movie is going to be, it's easily the best movie I've seen this year. And to be honest, it's going to be hard pressed to push this out of my top 5, top 10 of the year by the time it's all over.
It might be it might very well end up being my favorite of the year. I was a huge fan of this movie. I think there are valid critiques you could have, and B, just taste issues you could have with it. Beyond objective critique, this movie just isn't going to be everyone's flavor.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like sometimes it's actively trying.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to anyone's flavor.
But your two comparisons were super spot on. In terms of
good job, Hunter.
Thank you.
Nailed it.
So we can probably wrap up the pod now,
yeah,
right?
am I not telling you enough that you're doing you're doing fucking incredible over there? It just the movie follows dream logic.
Nightmare.
Well, of course. The movie is somewhere between a delusion and a nightmare. Not objectively, so I'm not spoiling anything. I'm just saying the way it feels and the way that the way that scene to scene the plot makes any sense is the way that dreams are constructed in your head, where your brain is almost sort of making it up as it goes, and so there isn't a lot of connection from sequence to sequence. Every single storytelling mode that this movie has that is not traditional, every choice made in the story that you're well, that's not a normal thing, is how dreams work. Yeah. That's the answer to every question you could have in terms of logic. Things are heightened in a very, very particular way, because it's a nightmare. Everything is the worst case scenario of absurdist scenes that would affect somebody's psyche.
Yeah. Down to seeing an actor or actors shine, being portrayed in one light at the beginning of the film, and then seeing them as a completely different character later on in the story, and popping up in these different things where it's will see this person in the store, like whenever you're just in a Publix one day, and then you'll just like have a dream and that person will just be like in the background. It has that same kind of, unexplainable
but
energy
it just
to
is.
it that it's so good. I mean, so much of where this movie succeeds not only relies on Ari, but with Joaquin. And
I was just going to segue to Joaquin. Yeah.
I mean, if we're going to talk about Joaquin Phoenix, and I think that it's, at least in my mind, her and The Master are 2 10 out of 10 performances, 2 of like the best performances of the 21st century in a movie. Beau Is Afraid is close. I think that it's in the top 5 of the best performances that he has ever given.
It's my favorite. It's the one that I think more than any of the other ones, I could, like, if any other actor is playing this role, it is a different movie entirely.
Yeah.
And that's also,
he gets a lot of creative.
Well, yeah, that's confirmed in, like, have you guys listened to the A24 podcast yet?
Yeah.
That podcast, for anyone, by the way, don't listen to it. They stole our branding.
Fucking hacks.
I know.
Dude.
Don't listen to it. But
it's awful.
Yeah. Not that this might interest you, but they had this little episode with Ari Aster and Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
Talking to each other.
Not enough talk about jizz. I think they ever mentioned jizz like one time.
It was a very interesting pod though, because they have like a really fascinating dynamic, and it is like a working relationship thing where like Joaquin he's in an interesting middle ground as an actor between being like a Jeremy Strong type where he's like actively bugging people and being someone who has the trust to know that even if he's being difficult, it like he does kind of know what's best a lot of the time for his character, for the shot. Like he has that amount of pull. And so I think he brought so much to the movie. Like, I don't know. There's no recasting couch for me. He's the perfect guy for this. Ari is the perfect director for it. The way they work together is really, really interesting.
Yeah, I think that just kind of setting up the broad strokes, he plays a man who is suffering from some extreme paranoia, probably some kind of schizophrenia or something like that. And you are squarely in his perspective. Even though the world is not always presented as like a hallucination, like overtly a hallucination. There is a lot that suggests that you are not seeing reality.
But we never break from his perspective. Right. This movie's 3 hours long, which I know that is already going to turn away the masses, is that it's a 3 hour long, like, black comedy horror film. Like, that's just, most people kind of like shrink away from that. But the fact that you are so just trapped in this mode, and there's degrees to the insanity around you that you're seeing, but at any given point, you cannot trust anything that you are seeing visually presented to you.
And you're always questioning it, but at a certain point, the movie just fully pulls you in where you stop questioning it.
Yeah.
I think it is a fun game to play in the first third or so, where you're just like, whoa, like, what's real and what's not, you know, is this actually the world, or is he just imagining it? But eventually it's just insane. Like, eventually you're just so deep in it that question starts to really move down the priority list.
Exactly.
Based on what you're seeing.
You become like numb to it in a way that he does, he does just existing through his life.
It's just, it has this cool cohesion from world to world, because we travel between several different, like vastly different settings, but they do all take place in the same like insane, weird, heightened world that feels as though it's like a projection of a crazy guy.
Yeah.
But like you said, off rip, that's all we're seeing. We're not seeing any other version.
Yeah. Like he could easily just be walking around an empty world, and he is just projecting his insanity into it.
And so that, I think we can talk about the first world without it being designated as like a super spoiler, because I want to talk about the world building of it. The first like slice of his life that we see is there's an entire town set.
Well, no, there's
so much world,
like city block.
Yeah, so much world is built, and it's all fucking insane.
Yeah,
it's the way I said it after we saw it was, it feels like Ari Aster is making fun of the way that Todd Phillips directed the Joker movie, like the way he treated New York.
Yeah.
Where it's just like everything is fucking awful and shitty and scary. Like there's graffiti on the walls.
It's all
that just says
so
like
funny.
Yeah,
It says like cock.
it's just a guy with a big butt and it says cum.
Yeah,
like
or a guy just like jizzing in his mouth and it just says like
Yeah, it's like the dumbest world of all time.
Yeah.
Everyone is an awful moron.
Yeah.
And
All of those guys, the guy doing the salsa dancing.
the fucking guy who's like tattooed from head to toe, just like chasing him around.
the naked stabber.
Yeah.
Man.
The birthday. There are things that like I don't want to give away everything because
I know.
Because there are so many fun jokes, like visual gags like that, and especially in the first half of the movie.
Yeah.
Where it is, I did not expect Ari Aster to really have this.
Well, that's what I'm saying is this is the biggest world that he's built by far. Like it's not like an isolated, like this is a city set, and whether or not it, makes sense to us, it has to follow its own logic.
Yeah.
And it does. Like if you're going to do that, that adds another layer to every level of your production. Like if you are going to build a world so now every single set choice matters a little more because it has to make sense in this world. Cause this isn't necessarily, you're not recreating anything. You're deciding what it looks like there. Right. That's a whole different ballgame. And in my opinion, a lot harder than recreating.
And based on that podcast, apparently he had a very tough time doing it. They don't share the whole story, but there is some scars from the production of this movie. It seems like I mean, not everything went well.
This seems like it was a really grueling shoot. They shot this over 13 weeks.
That's nuts.
Which is, especially for like an A24 movie. I mean, there's $35 million right there. And like, not to mention, I know we've talked about this before, and I don't want to turn this into like A24 is really good, but they just find a way to find actors or directors who know how to stretch a budget to like its full maximum capacity. When you have something like Everything Everywhere that was made for 25-30, The Green Knight, which was made for like $10 million, which is like one of the most stupid, beautiful movies that you've seen in years. Like, they know how to actually use these budgets to their full abilities. And not to mention, we'll get to it whenever we start to transition to spoilers, but even going outside of Joaquin, the performances in this movie are unfucking believable.
Yeah.
They are so good. The fact that Ari is able to pull on these incredible theater actors and like them along with Joaquin just doing A++ work it's dynamite. It's absolutely dynamite.
Yeah. I think just in more broad terms before we jump into more specifics, I think that this movie has a massive hill to climb in terms of reaching an audience. I was talking to my sister and she hadn't even heard of this movie until I told her about it today. And she loves Midsommar. A24 does not know how to market this movie because it's so fucking weird.
I wouldn't either. It's not a movie that inherently would make money. But like I said, like I love it so much, and it's not.
This movie is going to eat like 30 mil.
I would understand not liking it, and I would understand like most people not liking it.
But so, I think that someone at A24 must have looked at this script and said, we could probably lose a lot of money on this, but let's go for it. Like that, someone must have had that conversation. And the fact that they still let it happen is amazing.
Well, they're a decently well-run studio. They have their own connections in the industry. So like they know that names are going to be attached to it. Like, it's not just like a free-floating script. They're like, we can get Joaquin. Like people want to be in movies like this.
It's probably what you were just saying before that, like, he does Hereditary and Midsommar, and then they're just like, all right, Ari, whatever you want to do, we'll give you.
Keep it sub 50, but otherwise, like whatever you want.
Because the way that roles work, especially now when there's a lot more communication in Hollywood. Like people put out feelers to be like, hey, like if you make another movie, like my client, like an agent being like, yeah, my client here, the theater teacher from Lady Bird, what's his name? The guy who plays the therapist.
Yeah. Steven.
Hey, he really fucks with Midsummer, and he like if
Stephen McKinley.
Yeah, like hey, just
Stephen
throwing
McKinley
this out
Henderson.
there. If you end up having something for him, he'd love to take it. Like that's a much more common thing in Hollywood now, and this is the exact type of director that gets that benefit now of people fuck with him.
Yeah.
And it affects their choice to be in the movie.
Especially, I mean, think about it. It makes sense. It makes all the sense in the world for Joaquin, especially to look at this, because if you look at the last two movies with Hereditary and with Midsommar, Toni Collette and Florence Pugh got like real acclaim, like acclaim that does not come towards any actor in a horror movie traditionally. So it makes sense that Joaquin would choose to actually go for something like this, a little bit outside the box. We were talking about this whenever we left the screening about how this was likely Joaquin's first choice after winning Best Actor. Like his first since Come On was probably filmed, or at least he had picked it and was signed on before
the Oscar.
Before actually winning an Oscar for Joker. That this was like his next move was like, I'm going to be Beau Wasserman in this this weird Ari Aster film. But also kind of similar to that, it's like fascinating that when A24 decided to release this, A24, this is their first major release after winning Best Picture.
For Everything Everywhere. Yeah.
It's weird that they chose now, because I think if they thought this was going to be a bigger hit, they might have put this in like a more traditional horror month, like in something like October or something like that.
Well,
but
Everything Everywhere also came out around this time a year ago.
Maybe they're thinking word of mouth for Beau Is Afraid, Best Picture.
We saw it at that same theater a year ago, right? And so they're hitting a similar timeline, a similar slot, but this movie could not be more different. I mean, this movie is not going to be a hit. I mean, there might be some sickos out there that go and like really sing its praises. Like we'll be out there. We'll join the Beau Hive. I got my shirt on.
Yeah.
But this is not Everything Everywhere. And this is not going to be the kind of movie that like
this is not a feel-good movie. This is a feel-bad movie.
Yeah, this is the feel-bad movie of the season. And so if you're thinking about seeing it, like definitely consider, if you saw Hereditary and Midsommar and you like those movies, there might be a lot for you here. If you're a Joaquin completionist, there's probably a lot here for you. I think that outside of that, this movie is going to take a couple of cycles to find its audience, because it is going to be that kind of movie that, like, if you're not a Joaquin head, if you're not an Ari Aster head, maybe you just like A24 and you might be curious about what their next movie is.
But this isn't like one of the quirky, weird indies that they put out either. Like this is, it's a lot more challenging than that.
Exactly.
And I think that that's something that it's going to turn a lot of people off. But also I think that's, if that does sound like something that's appealing to you, then join the fucking Beau Hive. I
think that the challenge is, like, obviously the 3-hour thing is a huge hurdle, but you have to look at who is going to be okay with enduring some of the absolutely just deranged shit that this movie does, and also be willing to let loose a little bit. Like, you can't be going into this movie thinking, yes, art, cinema, very serious art film. But you can't also be thinking that it's a farce. Like, it has this silliness. It has this wackiness. It's very unwieldy, but it also has like this panic to it, this serious illness of this mentally unstable man. It manages to kind of cross those streams where, like, kind of going back to your I'm thinking of ending things comparison, that I think that's a movie that also does that. But that's a movie that I wasn't super hot on. You guys were way higher on that. And I think that it was because when I saw it, first of all, Netflix movie, you see it at home, completely different experience than seeing this in a theater. But there wasn't enough there for me to, like, really feel like I was being sucked into it. It was kind of happening in front of me, and I wasn't like being immersed in that movie.
Well, I'll give you one potential reason other than the theater experience. Charlie Kaufman is not the director that Ari is.
Exactly. That's
he's
the
just
thing.
not.
Yeah.
This is phenomenally directed.
That's
It
the
just
thing.
it look
It's crazy.
Especially this is a movie that again it goes back to it benefits in the IMAX because you just want to like pause and just like explore.
Yeah.
every
like
frame.
shots. It's the little things that he'll add to shots. I'm not surprised that he was overwhelmed making this shit because like so many shots are dynamic when they don't have to be. So many takes are super fucking
Extras
long.
moving in the background.
Super long and
Yeah.
require a lot of movement. And like I said, like props and set decoration and everything has to be so thought out because we're covering a lot of ground. Like there's one shot in particular where like it begins impressive and dynamic because it goes for a while. And we're getting a lot of camera movement following a character tracking. And then out of nowhere, water sort of almost rains down on the camera. And it's because as it turns out, it was a POV shot of Joaquin's character and someone like he's getting water on his head. Like
Facts.
it's so impressive. And that's just one example, but that type of shot happens so many times.
But yeah, so I think that the thing I was trying to get at is that like you end up with this Kaufman comparison that I think is very apt, but I don't think that I'm thinking of Ending Things or Anomalisa or Synecdoche, New York, maybe some of his scripts that were directed by other people feel like a movie in the traditional sense of like going out and like feeling like you were entertained. Like this movie is entertaining, as sick and twisted as it is, as fucked up as it is.
It's entertaining for the sickos.
This is like a thrill ride in a lot of ways.
It is. It's thrilling, and it's also like traditionally stupid funny in like a Babylon type sense where it's just like you're getting jokes that are surprisingly really dumb and in a funny way.
You're getting some like elephant shitting on the camera. Dumb humor.
Yeah, like I said, like the way Colin sold me on Babylon is he was like, dude, it's awesome. It's like stupid, like Family Guy. It's so funny. Like, but it's but it's shot like a masterpiece.
Right.
And that is so appealing, to that contrast. And there's a lot of that in this movie.
Yeah, and
I thoughtfully crafted like stupid stuff is some of my favorite filmmaking.
And I think that, having to balance the kind of fucked up darkness of this movie with the laugh out loud stuff is, if you're able to go into this movie and do that, you're going to have a blast.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe some people that love Ari Aster may be slightly taken aback by that. I think Hereditary and Midsommar both have their own fucked up sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not like this came out of nowhere,
Definitely.
but I think it's front and center in this movie. And I think that's a lot of what makes it work so well, is that he is doing something very different. He is going for this, frankly, like really, really funny tone. And then you start to unfold and, kind of wild out into the darker stuff. So should we give out any other brief spoiler-free thoughts, or should we kind of start to dig more into the specifics of what happens in Beau Is Afraid?
I want to get into spoilers. I want to talk about this movie.
So,
this movie is awesome. I cannot wait to like one last spoiler-free thought thing that I have about this is like, this is one of those movies that I can't wait for people to see this, whether they love it or hate it, just because I just want to like hear the takes, hear the interpretations. Yeah. Like, I'm not like a fan theory type of guy, like going on like fucking YouTube wormholes or something like that. But like, I think this is going to be a movie that's going to just find a specific audience that is going to glom onto it and like obsess over it in the way that something like kind of Babylon did, but even just a lot of great movies like that do, where they just find this cult following that people are going to become obsessive about this movie.
Oh yeah. And there's a lot of layers. It has a lot of ideas. It's not just, fucked up silly.
It's intense.
And I think that that audience is out there. It's just a matter of like, how people will get this in front of those eyes. So,
and how many people are members of that audience,
right?
That are also people who go out and go to movies.
Yeah, but
I don't know how it's going to do.
It's in some ways it is just like a movie for grown-ups. And I always think about that Mark Maron bit where he's like, what happened to movies where everyone used to stumble out of the movie theater confused, like, what happened? Did he die? I don't know.
It's not. Yeah, it's very intentionally not giving you the traditional movie like end satisfaction.
Yeah, nothing.
Right. It begs for the discussion.
There really is no cathartic moment.
It wants, it wants you to be confused, and I don't think that takes away from the vision. Like, I don't think that means that he's confused. I think a lot of people mix the two things up.
Yes, I think that's well said, because I think of something like let's just dogpile on our boy again. Something like Darren Aronofsky's Mother. That's a movie where it's just like, I have all these ideas, and like it's like a baby just like throwing a bunch of crayons on a piece of paper and just being like, this is art. Like, if there's no vision at the center of it, then it's
Mother?
just a fucking mess. It's just a fucking shithole. Weirdly, I think I respect Mother more after seeing The Whale.
Yeah.
Because The Whale is just such doo-doo that like somehow I'm like, well, it must have been better than that. But I think
this
that
is far from that.
Mother is kind of like the bad version of this. It's where it's just like you have ideas but no vision. And this movie has a very central vision at its core. It has a lot of themes that it's going to play even more, I know, on a rewatch, but themes that just run throughout the entire story that
Ari Aster
work really well.
Fucked up relationship.
Dude,
with
he's
his
a
mom.
genius. Do you want to real quick revisit the director's draft? Do you have that easily pulled up?
We'll do that later.
Okay. I don't know if you had
let's talk about spoilers for Beau Is Afraid right now. So if you haven't seen it, this is your warning. Come back when you've seen it. Please go see it. Okay. Take the time. Make the journey. Beau Is Afraid. Spoilers now. Okay. So I think that maybe the best place to start is to really
him being born.
Yeah, because I was gonna say you said the first world is the city of New York or whatever city they're in, but actually you just see him coming straight out of the womb.
Yeah, and it's
he can't breathe. They have to
baby butts,
and it's visually awesome. The sound design is fucking awesome.
It's scary.
It's so cool
in that IMAX.
The way you slowly like make sense of what you're looking at, and you're like, is someone about to get born?
Yeah,
it's so cool.
Beau.
Every movie that starts inside of a human being is great. Beau Is Afraid, Uncut Gems. Osmosis Jones.
There you go. Bangers. Yeah. So to introduce us to Beau from a POV inside the womb is a wild choice. And then you go straight to therapist. And it's also like, it's like an origin story. Like he gets dropped and like you get the sense that he's kind of fucked up. Yeah. Well, they have to like revive him.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like dying. Because he plops out and like hits the wall.
You know when you
think he hit the wall
right now?
It just burst out. Just splattered onto the ground.
Like,
this is why
you got like 4 feet on that that time.
This is why we need sex ed in our schools.
She pushed too hard. The doctor had like slippery fingers. Like, whoa.
Doctor's like, whoa, like juggling the baby around.
Yeah. And it turned him schizophrenic.
Yeah, honestly.
Wait, real quick. I meant to mention this in the spoiler free, but I guess we can talk about it now. There's going to be some bad fucking takes about this movie. Like, I'm already preparing myself now for all the good takes that are going to come and the good community that's going to come out of this. I'm like just saying right now, just like stop. I know you like want to like post your little tweet about like how Beau Is Afraid is problematic and like just stop it. Just hit delete on the draft, my guy, because this is a movie.
Because it depicts a schizophrenic man.
Because it's anti-Semitic. It's made by a Jewish guy. It can't be. Sorry.
I know that there's going to be some bad takes about this. And guess what? Him being schizophrenic is not what this movie is about.
It's a good place to start.
It's about mommy issues.
Yeah. But we're introduced to the mom in that first scene with the therapist. The relationship is established. And this entire first chunk of the movie is whether or not he's going to be able to fly home to see her. And the way the paranoia builds up very slowly, very subtly. I mean, obviously we're seeing weird shit.
Yeah, we're seeing this
but
crazy like psycho world that he lives in.
The first moment that I knew this movie was going to be special is when he's buying the little trinket, the little token, and you see the person that's going to jump in the reflection of the glass case that only lines up perfectly when the guy opens it to grab the trinket and the camera focuses to the glass.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I was like, oh, baby.
Yeah.
If you're doing that, if you're taking the time to do that move, we are in for some shit right now. You know, that's just a little way for Aster to be like, look, I got this shit. I'm in my bag right now.
Well, and it's almost required because of how goofy everything is that's happening. So it's like the craft he's putting in is almost to be like, no, this is for real. Yeah. Like just because it's silly doesn't mean that this isn't some real ass.
Pay attention.
And that's the first moment where you get some kind of like, I mean, because there's the craziness of everything that's happening around him, but it's the guy jumping off the roof and everybody's just like, dude, we're trying to get this guy to jump, where it's just like something is like kind of like unsettled about this world.
These people are not quite
These doesn't
right
just like vagrants just on
in
the
the
street.
head. Yeah. And that whole stretch of just seeing his block, essentially like where he lives, I was just eating that up.
It
I
was so
like,
sick.
oh my God, give me every little bite of this thing. Like the every person, every sign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like he had to build a world for this that follows this dumbass logic of just like everyone being a stupid, crazy moron.
Yeah.
Who's
just
mad.
Full chaos. It is the Joker thing, but it's also like what Fox News tells their viewers that like
it's what they
that's what the
San Francisco.
Yeah, the San Francisco. Yeah, it's like it's just a direct rip of like what Tucker Carlson is saying.
No, you're right. It's like it feels like an idiocracy thing. Like the shows on TV, the branding of every item. Like it's
the
all a joke
on the advertising on the billboards.
It's all dumb as shit in it, but it's all like very well thought out. It's so cool.
The way that advertising is done in this entire movie is incredible. Down to the MW that then you get a payoff later on what that is.
It's her initials.
Yeah, Mona Wasserman. That literally is a production slide before the movie actually starts.
What a choice.
The MW.
That's so cool.
And then you get like the ads, and every ad that you see has an MW on it. It's so much production design and well thought out.
So he calls mom. He has to tell her that he can't go because he lost his keys. And immediately the relationship is set up of this mom that is just
She's
not.
Like, it's fine. It's this super long fucking shot of just Joaquin's side of the phone conversation.
Yeah, we could fix it.
There's two of those in this first act of the movie that are just it's
perfect.
It's Joaquin just like doing everything that he can.
It's some of the best acting I've seen in years. It's incredible. He's doing something really special in this movie. I don't know if I'm quick to put this in like my top 3 Joaquins, maybe top 4, maybe top 5. I don't know. I'd have to do like a thorough examination. Let's pull up his his filmography real quick because I do love what he's doing. I don't know. Yeah, this is up there.
It's my number 1. It's the most irreplaceable Joaquin. Second place is I think The Master.
I think I'd still put The Master.
It's tough to imagine someone else doing that, but this movie is like, it needs him to be so good.
You know, I really like him.
Signs? Are you gonna make a Signs? Or The Village Defense?
I don't love this movie, but I love him in Inherent Vice.
He is great in that movie. That
really
movie doesn't
similar
really
vibe.
work,
Confused like high guy.
Yeah. No. This is this is easily in the top 3. It has to be. It has to be.
It's this, her, and The Master.
Yeah,
like, are just kind of unassailable.
Maybe we don't have to like dive all the way into the mom relationship, but the way they set it up in the beginning, you already get enough to go off of. You already get a solid foundation for what's to come. And I think they do an incredible job of like keeping it just grounded enough for you to understand that there is a baseline reality for this movie, for this relationship to exist. It's not full nutso crazy. Like you can tell that this is a son and his mother, and there is a very clear relationship here, and a lot of people's relationships with their mom will be in some way mirrored in this movie. Obviously, it starts to get crazy off the rails, and she goes into, a lot more outlandish places. But that initial note where it starts of just like the tiny little bit of guilt tripping and manipulation, that's enough to kind of give you an in to start relating to Beau and his experience.
And there is a little bit of that empatheticness to it, but it's also right off the bat showing you that like Beau is a scared little boy who has like no autonomy. And this entire movie, the whole thing is him not knowing what to do and asking like, well, what should I do next? I don't know what, you tell me what's right. You tell me what I should do. And then feeling so immensely guilty for every action that he feels. This really is just a movie about like feeling guilt from relationships with your parents.
I mean, especially the fucking end of the movie, which I'm still thinking about.
It's him putting himself on trial.
Yeah.
Like for his sins that he committed during his life.
So that's established his relationship with his mom. And it's during a key point in the movie because with the therapist, key plot point, he was prescribed a new medication. Like as he's walking out the door telling him, yeah, I'm about to go do something important.
And he pops the pill.
I should probably give you this real quick. Take it with water though.
Always.
Take
so
it
he
with
pops
water.
the pill and then he gets his shit stolen. He can't go see his mom. And then he's freaking the fuck out, spiraling. And then he takes more.
He takes a pill. He's out of water. And the funniest thing is he looks up side effects of taking this medicine without
remembering
water. Remembering John.
It's so
good.
There are so many jokes like that in this movie where it's just like the panic starts to climb and it just hits you with, it's not, but it doesn't diffuse the tension, right? Like you're still building the tension, but you get these moments to release and have laughter without sacrificing the intensity of the moment. It's kind of masterful. Like
it's it's a crazy balance.
Yeah,
it really is.
Can I real quick, just because I just saw this quote from Ari Aster that I guess I hadn't seen before, where he was describing what the movie was. Whenever he said it's a nightmare comedy, it's a Jewish Lord of the Rings, but Beau's just going to his mom's house. And then the other thing is, it's as if you pumped a 10-year-old full of Zoloft and then had him get in your groceries. Or had him get your groceries.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah, it's like a panic.
Yeah, because he has
just
to go get water from across the street, and that becomes a whole thing.
It becomes
people break in.
It's like this movie has like I mean it's of course like the schizophrenia element to it, but it has like this like nightmarish like this drug induced like kind of like I don't want to say like, oh, dude, it's fucking trippy, dude. But like, it has like this almost like acid dripped level to it, especially this first act, that it's just like every little thing is the most horrifying experience that you've ever had to deal with in your life. You actually like, you look out your window and you're like, yeah, no, I'm definitely going to get stabbed today.
So the mom dies, or so we think at that point in the movie. And then we get that second phone call of him talking to the UPS guy, which is incredible.
It's exactly what you were just talking about, where it's tense, and it's like sad, but it's also really funny.
Yeah,
like
some really good jokes.
Yeah, it's like it's written to be funny.
Yeah, they hang up and then he answers again, and he's just like,
I probably just dialed the wrong number.
He's like, I have it saved on my phone. Oh, you have it saved on your phone? Okay, cool. Try hanging up and call back.
I'm so sorry. It's really good. I think there's a lot of scenes in this movie that are shoo-ins for scene of the year and the Wabamis this year. I think that this phone call is
Shot of
one
the
of
year.
them. Yeah, because it's just you're like right up in his face. You're not cutting. He's given an incredible performance, and it's sort of it sets everything in motion. Where like this is really where the spiral starts. Mommy's dead, and you are about to start just flipping out, full on freak out mode. And the number of times in this movie where he gets knocked out unconscious and we have to reemerge into the story, there's got to be like 5 or 6.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's definitely a few. I think there's one in between each act break. So that
feels
4
right. That feels right. So
it's like a dual purpose thing because that's a dream logic thing of like it's a way to get from like really detached world to detached world.
Yeah. You kind of just fade into black and then back.
Yeah, which is
like,
exactly.
I'm in the woods now. Yeah.
It's like whenever I'm sick, my dreams are really, really intense, and they have that feel where like they all have the same vibe because the vibe is I'm sick and I don't feel good. But like they're super. They're not related necessarily.
How do I get in on your dream with Nathan Lane and Amy Ryan?
Hey,
because I want to be in that dream. That's the vibe that I'm trying to be at.
That was
hey buddy, hey buckaroo,
my dude.
my dude.
What do we have to do to get Nathan Lane an Academy Award?
Oh my god!
What has to happen? This man is a treasure.
Mm-hmm.
He is incredible in this movie. I was giddy. I was having the time of my life watching him on a big old IMAX screen. He's so good. He's so funny. Oh,
talk about just a guy who knows exactly what movie he is in. Yeah. It's just, he is dialing this movie. He comes in at a perfect point because I think that this movie has like 5 very clear and distinct acts to it. And I think he and Amy Ryan come in at a perfect break where at that point through like the first 30-40 minutes of this movie, it's kind of like nonstop. Like it is a little bit like gripping your seat and you like kind of need just a little bit of a release. And Nathan Lane and Amy Ryan provide that where there's like, we're going to take you to like,
we got you, Beau.
Our home where we rehabilitate other mentally unwell people. TBD on what exactly they do here, or if they,
no, that guy was just in the same battalion as their son who got killed.
No, but what else? Who else is Nathan Lane healing?
He's a doctor. He's a surgeon.
He's like a house surgeon.
So that guy, the Jeeves, I think his name is.
Mm-hmm.
He is the French father in Inglorious Bastards.
What? Wait, what?
Yeah.
Denis Meěnochet?
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
That's so fucking
with
insane.
Christoph Waltz in the opening.
Oh my God. Yeah. In the opening scene of Inglorious Bastards.
That's so funny.
Yeah. I just saw that. That is mind blowing.
He cooks in this. It's this really fucked up little like dollhouse that they have.
Yeah. Parker Posey's there. Oh wait, is that Parker Posey? No, who is this?
Amy Ryan.
No, that's Amy Ryan's in here. Parker Posey comes in later.
Oh wait, no, this actress's name is Hayley Squires.
The girl,
the daughter.
Oh, yeah. She is unbelievable in this, and like so like evil in a way, like the way that she is presented in this, and it's just like
nightmare blunt rotation,
like truly like just out here just popping every pill imaginable. Like I want to torture this man who's coming and staying in my home and just wants to get to his
she's like on
dead
coke
mother
and meth basically, just like fully
and eventually paint. Just guzzling down paint.
That was fucking nuts. That was absolutely nuts.
This whole sequence is also where we first get a bit of something overarching, like an idea that something bigger is going on, because Amy Ryan slips a napkin to him.
Yeah. Like don't incriminate yourself.
Stop incriminating yourself. Which it sort of like, you don't know what the payoff is eventually going to be to that. He's paranoid in general, obviously, but I don't know. Whenever you see something like that, from that moment, I had a fear that this was going to be like the White Christmas episode of Black Mirror.
Yeah. Where everything's just kind of being orchestrated around.
Yeah, you
Where
think
we're
you're
gonna
gonna get
end
like a
up-
Truman Show kind of thing.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Where we're going to end up in the actual world, quote unquote, in the movie.
Right.
And this movie doesn't have an actual world.
Yeah.
Well,
It
kind of does and doesn't. Like the reveal of the mom at the end, you know, that the fact that she's not dead, that's this movie's version of the real world.
But it's also still not, because then from there it goes to the courtroom, and that's not a real world.
I'm still thinking about that. Like, I have so many questions about this movie because, like, there are things that happen that feel like they're out of nowhere. Like they just happen out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And there are other things that feel like they don't lead to anything. Like the fact that, well, I guess you do see Nathan Lane's picture in the wall, in the picture frame at the end. Like he's like an MW employee. But there was a lingering thread of that storyline that felt like it never went anywhere. Like you're moving from world to world. You're moving from all of these different acts. And I did feel like you were leaving behind a lot of things and not continuing them as it went along. You had the thread of Beau and his journey and his life, but some of these kind of auxiliary subplots and characters weren't continuing enough for me to feel like the movie was always moving with momentum. To me, it feels like the movie, it really ramps up for the first half. And after the Amy Ryan, Nathan Lane stuff, we get the boat flashback, which is incredible. But once we start to get into the woods, it almost felt like we were entering a different movie, which is good. I still like the movie. There's no part of the movie that I felt like was lacking anything, but I did feel like it started to change a lot. Like the movie shifted heavily.
Yeah. I think that,
it becomes something else.
You quite literally do enter a different movie because it becomes that's moving into this like third act. And one other thing for that second act with Amy Ryan and then you also get a moment that I cannot wait to rewatch this movie for, which is whenever Amy Ryan comes to him and she's just like, check channel 78. And then he like looks
Fast
backwards and like rewinds, sees what brings happened, and then fast forwards and you literally see the rest of the movie playing on the screen.
It just like super fast motion.
It's like insane now, like that looking through it, that I'm like, oh my God. But
that alone would be like the premise of another movie, by the way.
Yeah.
That would be like an M. Night movie.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like that is the twist and then it just ends there. But whenever we enter in the woods world, that is kind of meant to tee off a different movie in a way, because I think it's a different movie, but also a lot of the main themes of the movie kind of start to come into focus a little bit more,
Right.
specifically with the story that's being told. That whole world that is created, which by the way is just like, I mean, shit, we talk about production design and that's like
a short film in the middle of this movie.
Unbelievably beautiful looking.
Yeah.
Like I just like jaw dropped it. Some of like, I don't know if it was like almost like rotoscope work, like with the like other humans that are in the world with their faces kind of like moving.
I have no idea how they
I have
did
no idea what the animation was that they worked with the practicality, but
it's a lot of real Joaquin.
Yeah.
Like they actually shot Joaquin maybe on a green screen and then overlaid this animation over it.
But there is definitely some level of practicality to it that you can tell just in the way that he's like walking through stuff. There probably is like some green screening, adding, embellishing stuff. But
they painted some of these sets for sure.
The way that story kind of wraps up, where it's as you're being told the story, you think that it's a story about Beau's life, down to the point of like, you like this girl killed herself in front of you and everybody said it was your fault. And eventually even you started to think it was your fault. Like the fucking paint thing that we just watched like 45 minutes earlier, like the movie's playing out down to the point whenever the kids are happening there. He's just like, I've never had sex with anybody. He's like, then how are we exist? And it kind of becomes this whole like, I took this as whenever we as humans and just as people who take in art always want to like assign ourselves and be like, oh my God, this is like the story of my life. Like this song is just like me.
Yeah.
And
this movie's literally me.
it's
I'm Beau.
it's like literally
I'm
just
afraid.
like kind of eating itself until it's like, wait, no, what are you talking about? And then just like a dream, it fucking snaps back to reality. That's just like, no, you're still alone here.
Such a good moment. That is
You're still here.
masterful moment because that sequence is so long that you get
It's
sucked into it.
You get hypnotized by it.
And then when he's like reunited with his sons, you're like, oh my God, finally, like he's back, they're back, they're happy. Oh my God. Then it's like, wait, you've never had
I guarantee
sex
whenever Beau or whenever Ari brought the 4-hour cut to them, this was probably one of the first things that they said to cut because they're like, what is this?
whole thing.
What is this?
It all just,
And Ari's
I don't
like,
know. The language of it just like makes genuinely perfect sense.
What's that
to
dream
me.
logic?
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm obsessed with movies that are able to nail it because this exact feel makes perfect sense in my head. Like the way it's the ways that it's disconnected are connected because I've experienced not the subject matter of his fucking dreams because I don't have that.
That's insane.
I don't have that piece going on, but like the way it all works together makes perfect sense. Like the going in deeper into an animated world out of absolutely nowhere and then coming out of it. And then you're back in like, it's like layer to layer. It's so well thought out and well done. And it also, the way that the whole world is informed in this movie is under one rule, which is that his mom makes things bad for him.
Yeah.
That's why it like the dream version of that is like she makes the world bad. She owns the company that has like effectively ruined the earth.
Right.
Like she
owns like big pharma, but also like
it's also
the company that's like pushing people into halfway houses and like
like exactly like the entirety of this world is bad because of her. Like the reason that these people are like doing theater in the fucking woods is
also her name is the logo in the production
it's
credits
the logo
of the movie.
It's
her fault. This movie's her fault.
It's the town that she lives in.
Yeah, Walster
is named after her.
Yeah.
Like it's like a silly like extended version of it's almost like a kid show kind of logic. Because it's just like, what's the biggest, baddest version of this?
What did you guys think of the whole flashback sequence?
The boat?
Yeah, because I feel like that informs a lot of this, of what you're talking about, of where the origins of this perception of mom, kind of ruling everything.
Well, because that scene contains more grounded reality than anything else in the whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like things
that's the only memory, like actual, where we can assume that is like,
this
for the most part
scene of him getting
trustworthy.
born, it follows like a very standard normal logic. Like none of that couldn't theoretically happen in our world. And then this all of this cruise stuff, like it's heightened, but it is pretty sensible.
Yeah,
everything that happens, it's just we get this little AI boy who looks like Joaquin.
I still don't buy it.
I do.
Armen Nahapetian. That sounds
an AI generated human.
Fake.
And he's on a cruise with his mom, and she is way too close to him in a weird way dynamically, and she is like overbearing and doting on him, and he is frozen in the fear of making a choice on his own. Like that's the base of what this guy becomes, which is like fully mentally ill and schizophrenic, but like it's rooted, like it's not insane. He meets this girl who's like kind of insane.
Yeah. Which everybody knows, you get a crazy first love, and then it
I just mean she's like a heightened character.
Yeah,
she's so like energetic and nutso, but still, it's not like she's a demon or something.
We have mentioned it before a few times. I just want to point out that Wasser is water in German, and we've talked about how water is all over this movie. Kind of the birth canal in a way is kind of meant. You hear like the sloshing of water in the very beginning of this. The ending of this movie ends over water. There's the boat scene that happens in the water and everything there. You mentioned the camera shot earlier where water is actually getting splashed onto Joaquin as he's walking around here. I love that whole sequence of everything that's happening on the cruise ship. For everything you guys are saying.
I'm just staring. I'm comparing photos of young Joaquin to this Armen guy,
So
and it's eerie.
It's weird.
So-
How did they find this guy is my
I
question.
know it's
like,
fucked up.
he doesn't like have a Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. This person just might not exist.
So before this, by the way, the way that he's using the poster really implies he's all over the movie. He's in one sequence. It's funny.
Well, no, it
He
implies
gets his
that he's
own-
Joaquin Phoenix
Well, yeah,
because the
yeah.
other 3 characters on the poster are just Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah. But so before this crew sequence, I'm pretty sure we already have the idea in our heads that he is scared to nut because his mom told him that
This is
all the men in his family have died nutting, and so he can't nut.
who read this script?
Which
Did they read it? Something tells me that they allowed this to happen without like a lot of oversight.
that fact informs the fact that this whole cruise ship thing is probably the only quasi romantic experience or encounter he's ever had
in his whole life.
Yeah, which is why it weighs so heavily on him. This girl in particular. That's another dream thing. People from your childhood just pop up in your dreams, and you're like, I haven't thought about that guy in 4 years.
Right, and they're there.
Yeah, it makes sense that if you were to then become schizophrenic, you'd be like, yep, she was the one.
The one.
Yeah.
I waited
she
for her.
wrote on the back of a picture of herself, "Wait for me."
Someday I'm gonna blast through a bag. Fucking this girl.
Man.
Hold on though. But let's not get to
Mariah
that yet. So yeah, this he has this like very informative childhood experience on the boat. Then we get at what point in the movie is that? Because then we get back into the real world. This
I feel like it goes.
It's
goes
earlier
city,
than what we were talking
It goes
about.
city, house, Nathan Lane house.
Flashbacks to some of the cruise stuff at Nathan Lane's house.
Oh, okay. So
and then we
start to
finish
see
up
it.
with Nathan Lane, go to the forest world. There's a second flashback.
Yeah, he runs into
later
the
on.
forest and then hits his head, and then we're with the theater crew, and then we get the whole theater show sequence.
And he has like a little mini love story with this woman who helps him because she's like a maternal figure to him. She takes him in and like is warm and
gives
kind.
her the little statue who's supposed to save her mommy.
And then, but then when shit goes down in the woods, when Jeeves coming in,
Jeeves goes.
Jeeves kills maybe his father. I don't know.
But
I just killed his dad.
Questions. I don't know. But then he gets knocked out again because he gets electrocuted on his ankle, and then I think that's
they
when
hit
we
the
go
incapacitate button. You know the button. You know the incapacitate button.
I think that's when we get the bulk of the cruise ship stuff, and we get the scene with like the scene that's the mom like talking to him in the bed, and the light is like moving around her head.
That's whenever you get the reveal that his dad died because he nutted.
Oh, yeah.
And his granddad and his great granddad, they all died because they nutted.
Well, there's some
that's hinted at. I mean, they first kind of mentioned that like Beau has never done anything. Whenever Nathan Lane sees him, he's just like, "Yo, your testicles are like really distended, dude. Like, you gotta pop, buddy."
You get a peek of them when he gets in the tub. There's like
a
the
decent amount of
little
schlong in this movie of schlong and balls.
Yeah.
I do wonder how much was.
But
actual
then
walking.
when you actually see those things in the bed, I screamed. I was like, "What the fuck?" That was not those are I could hold those with both my hands with plenty more.
That's why she's vibing so hard on his fucking dick.
Yeah, just bouncing.
Yeah, ladies love balls. I've always heard that. I've always heard that.
But yeah, now that I think about it, I don't know if the flashback stuff is like all in one block.
It's split up in 2 blocks.
Yeah, because like in that the theater beautiful colorful sequence, there are moments I think towards the end of that where you just like the editing just kind of puts you into a flashback. I'm pretty sure I'll have to go back and see, but you're not like immediately out of that sequence entirely until it's the moment at the end with the boys and they ask him like, where did you?
Well, it lulls you into this
think
like
you see a bit
it
of the
lulls
mom.
you into a false memory where you
Yeah.
are kind of wondering, is this a memory or is this a dream fantasy?
It kind of it's
that's kind of all over this
it
movie.
bleeds both of those together in that bit.
But importantly, in this dream world, in a world that like is his fantasy, where he is actually living his best life, he has a wife, he has kids that he like loves and is pulled back to them. Somebody else is telling his story. He is still not ever actually actively making decisions on his own. Somebody else is writing the story.
Voice.
Somebody else is writing the story for him.
It's a matriarch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he can still never possibly separate from this.
Mhm.
So once he actually gets out of the woods, he hitches a ride to the house, right? He ends up at the house.
Yeah,
and
you know
the
how
funeral
you
has
just
ended.
You look like shit, come disheveled out of the forest, and somebody's like, I will drive you to exactly where you need to go.
This was one of my theories about the fact that there's a longer cut is there's something with that guy who picks him up, because for them to just be nothing at all is interesting. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's another dream thing too, but
so he ends up at his childhood home, which looks like an insane dream version of what his childhood home probably was. His mom was like, in my mind, if we're viewing this as like an insane warped version of some reality that we don't ever get to actually see, like his mom probably had she had some sort of role in power, like in executive power. I don't think, she's not the CEO of the world's biggest company.
She's not like the all mother to everything.
Yeah, that's the silly, crazy version. But the idea that like the childhood home has almost become, it's where she still lives, and it's also a museum of her business is so nuts.
That gave me some ideas. Like, I might have to rethink some of my interior design.
Dude, that is my new dream home. Let me tell you right now, with the giant like open like atrium / living
so
room.
Cool. The setup of the spiral
staircase. Oh my God, that shit's so
I don't know
sick.
if
and then
it's
weirdly
built or
like
location scouted or what, but they found a spot.
That has to be like a place that exists.
I know, but it's
like,
just,
there's no way
that's like a fucking Frank Lloyd Wright house.
No,
basically.
I guarantee you that's a set. I mean, remember
the thing is,
remember the pictures of the Parasite house?
I know.
It's like half green screen.
It's so specific that like, it's the type of house where it's like, if that house exists, then why haven't 100 movies shot there already?
Well, it reminds me of the house in Ex Machina. And that house is real, isn't it?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure at least part of that house is real.
Yeah.
At least like the big atrium area where they shoot some of that stuff, like that exists. Because that main little spot where they are using is just like unbelievable. Now, like where they go up to the tiny ass attic in this beautiful mansion, I'm sure that that's not real.
Dude,
but
that attic, man, that is some of the most fucked up shit.
Wait, real quick, before we get to the attic, because I have thoughts on the dick monster. But
so many.
Let's talk about our girl Parker Posey.
Yeah, so this is the grown-up version
Elaine.
of the girl he met at the
This is
at the boat.
Well, I can't remember.
She rizzes him.
Do you see? So you see her on a news broadcast like that. He's watching. Beau's watching on his laptop early on. That's when he first sees
the laptop.
Yeah, that's
He
like
that was the grossest puke. It was
like
so
orange and chunky. It was
looked,
nasty.
It looked like when Moo takes like a diarrhea.
Oh no! Oh no! Don't put that on Moo.
Like that came out of Joaquin's mouth.
So Elaine, you see her on the news broadcast, and then I can't remember. Do you, once they get to the house, does he see like Nathan Lane and them and like other characters from earlier on?
He sees Nathan Lane in the picture. In the picture that's like a bunch of tiny pictures that make up the face of the mom.
Yeah, right. He sees those before Parker Posey shows up to the house though, right?
Yeah, because he's down there and she walks in. And she's like on the upper side and she has the flowers and she's like, I thought it was 8 p.m.
That's right. Okay. Yeah. So that's like whenever you're starting to the world is starting to kind of fold in on itself a little bit. That even like, if you look like the scary tattooed guy who you see who's chasing him around in the first part of the movie, he's also there as a worker at MW. Like they are
which
all,
is like, again, if we're talking schizophrenia, Like a lot of the time it's the government, you know, everyone is like hired by the government to come after me, but his big bad is his fucking mom. So everyone is hired by his mom to come after him. Everyone's in on it. He's even scared that she is.
The scene of them talking outside the house, very, very haunting. That's a scene that on its surface is very simple. It's just two people talking, but the layers of these characters like reconnecting, the weird psychosexual, like Freudian love that he has for his mom, and now she's dead, and now there's this one woman that is tied to memories of his mom, but now she's there and she's older and she kind of looks a little bit like the mom.
And he's like, he's insane and disgusting, but he's like, I waited for you. And she's like, I wanted you to.
Dude, he looks like shit. He probably smells so bad.
It is.
I know Joaquin smells crazy IRL.
The way that Parker Posey plays this is so interesting. I like keeping, because it's like
great.
She's a great actress.
She just like plays it in such a way of just like she kind of just plays it like flippantly, like, yeah, I'm kind of drunk. I remember you from my childhood. Yeah, let's go fuck. Like, it's just like, right it's now. So like, and I think everything in the movie that you see to that point is like so dramatic and kind of like it's like going to the nth degree of things. And now introducing this character who's just like, yeah, sure. Like I remember you. Yeah, no, we kissed that one time on the cruise ship when we were teenagers. Let's just go have sex in your mom's bed. Like, without any kind of second guessing to it, and just like, wait, I can't have sex with you until I put on Mariah Carey. Like things like that is just so, it's such like a fun character to just throw in here, like as you're like entering the final act of this movie.
But there's still that tinge when she first looks at him where you kind of do, the way she plays is like you kind of do see that there is a little girl in there somewhere that recognizes a little boy after all these years.
Well, there's the connection there, but it's also like, she also plays it a little bit like she like feels bad for him. Like it's almost like a sympathy fuck.
Yeah, his mom just died.
Yeah. So it's just like, I guess we'll fuck.
Until she didn't. This sex scene instead was a riot in the theater. I think of the entire movie, I think this is the scene that destroyed the most. Like it had the biggest reaction from the most people, I think. Or at least it felt that
Ari
way.
Aster knows how to make a sex scene in a movie. Is all that I will say. Between this and Midsommar, he knows how to fucking do a sex scene in the most unsexy way possible.
This movie was a thrill ride. I felt like I was on a roller coaster half the time, but like once it starts to like really change, I didn't have a good feeling of like where we were at in the 3 hours. I was just like, I have no idea if there's like an hour left or like 5 minutes left. I have no clue. And that was such a great feeling going into this sequence, because the whole time you're thinking he's going to fuck her, he's going to nut, and he's going to die. That's going to be the end of the movie.
That's true. And then his mom is alive and is also Patti LuPone. Big reveal.
Well, not only does he not die, he blasts through the bag.
He murders
fuckers
her.
Blasting through the walls. He nuts, and they're just like still going. He's like doesn't realize it until like a little bit after.
Nuts like again. He nuts twice.
Yeah, I did it, and then you just see Parker Posey's just like frozen corpse,
just instant kill from like the nastiest like built up jizz for like 40 years.
Imagine the stank on that cum coming out of there. That's like all through puberty cum just sitting in there.
It's like tadpoles.
Yeah, maybe that's why she's dying. You're like birthing an entire being inside of her.
That's why, fellas, you gotta crank it.
Facts.
Ari is pro cranking.
And then in very dream fashion, mom just is there.
Yeah.
And
in the shadow.
So this is interesting because this is maybe the only example in the whole movie of him knowing more than we do, because he actually knew she was alive because he recognized like a birthmark on the dead body. And
yes. Yeah. The headless body.
Yeah. And it turns out that his paranoia the whole time is rightful. Like it is one big ploy by his fucking mom to get his ass out there. So for a while, I don't know. It's interesting to see him less in the dark than we are. And we're watching him like not come after her. I mean, he does end up coming after her, but like he takes a little bit of agency in that scene because he's willing to argue with her, which like he won't even fucking argue with like with like Nathan Lane that much, you know, when he's postponing the trip over and over.
Yeah.
He just goes with it.
Since you brought up that Nathan Lane scene, one thing that I wanted to touch on that's so good, and then it kind of pays off later on in the movie where Nathan Lane's like pushing him like, we can't do it, we're gonna have to go tomorrow, but like I need you to say that this is your decision to push it till tomorrow.
Well, yeah,
like he like makes him take ownership for this thing.
Yeah. And then later on, that becomes another lens that you can watch the movie through. Is like so much of this is just people entrapping him into doing things that you could say are bad.
Yeah.
Even though he's being when he has to do drugs with the daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I think I fucked up the name. I think the daughter is played by Kylie Rogers. And then the actor that I had named before is the one that plays the Woods girl.
Mm.
Yes. Hayley's yeah.
But yeah, there's this energy. Like, I think this is also kind of like the thrill ride point again, but I just didn't know where this movie was going. And I love when that happens.
Yeah.
When I just have to stop, trying to guess what's going to happen next.
The misleads are nuts.
I love it when that happens.
Yeah, because that's another function of like he keeps passing out and waking up somewhere else. That gives our brains the opportunity to fill in the blank of like, okay, he's going to wake up in the real world every single fucking time. Yeah. You're like, okay, it's coming now. Now he's waking up.
Yeah.
And he just never wakes up.
But I think that this last act, the post nut act, like the final act of this movie,
the clarity act,
the clarity act. That's what he need. He needed post nut.
It's perfectly safe.
I think that like this is going to be the part that challenges audiences the most. And it was the part that challenged us like the most while watching it. Like, because it's
still challenged.
It's something where, like you said, Drew, like the movie is giving you, it's throwing a different pitch to you that has the entire movie, because now you kind of you're led to a point where you're questioning everything that you questioned before. You're now like secondhand trying to wonder, like, maybe there is validity to everything that I'm seeing here.
Yeah.
Maybe all of this actually was correct.
Even
and then you're questioning that you're seeing there.
Is the mom even alive?
Up until the point, where you're like, at first you see her and it's like, oh, it's just another like vision that he's having. Maybe Parker Posey isn't even actually dead.
Maybe there was
and you start to kind of think of that you're like, oh my God, now we're like in reality. And then you see the dick monster and you're like, well, I guess not. The dick monster is like,
well, first it's him. First it's like his twin.
Well, yeah, no, it's the vision that he had of seeing himself in the tub with the braver Beau.
It's a dream.
And, the fucking Stephen McKinley Henderson, him coming back as the therapist, was actually working for mom the entire time, which the idea of a therapist playing my recordings in front of like a family member, that might be the most scary thing that Ari Aster has ever captured on film. It's the idea of actually letting somebody hear
that's like a classic like paranoid thought.
Yeah,
that is like, oh my God.
What if this got recorded and like they're laughing about me?
I mean, my thing again is like, Ari Aster, like, are you okay? like there's some shit in this movie where I'm like, dude, like, do you need
call your mom
some help or something? Because that I think to a lot of people is crossing a line. Like the therapist is playing the recordings to his mom. That
like,
is,
which one was your favorite?
Like, I've seen some crazy ass shit in this guy's movies. I've seen some fucking depraved imagery. That might be one of the most fucked up. I think it's
things. Also it's the way that Stephen McKinley Henderson plays it too, where he just like smiles.
He's so evil.
Yeah, he just like he doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
He's just like smirking. He's so menacing.
I know, and I think we'll get to it later, but I think there's sort of an answer. Like my answer, quote unquote, to the movie lies in that performance. But
we can just get to it now, or basically at the end of the movie.
Well, so all of this happens, and then we get to court, which is it's like a fucking like Foucault nightmare, like a fucking panopticon, like like Hunger Games style
Everything,
trial of the masses.
which real quick, how it is shot is so fucking cool, where he's out there, he's like paddling his little boat out there in the ocean.
By the way,
everything that you see as stars is just people.
He goes under the rock.
He paddles into a giant vagina. Like he goes into the
he goes
womb.
back into the womb where he originally came out of.
Yeah, and he faces the music for like wronging his mother. It also reminded me of the video for Foxtrot Uniform Charlie Kilo by the Bloodhound Gang driving the hot dog through the tunnel. Yeah, just very like clear imagery.
And she's there with her attorney,
Richard Kind. His attorney is 1-800 defense on the other side of the, which is so funny.
That's again,
it's a guy yelling. You can barely even hear him.
And then he falls.
No, somebody pushes him to his death, and he falls and like explodes on a rock.
This is where, like, if anyone were to have not hopped off and like still was like a little bit out, this would upset them, because this is where we end, is in the arguably the most insane and stylized world of any of them.
It's essentially a theater.
Yeah,
like we're sitting in a huge IMAX theater. And we're looking at essentially a mirror of where we're sitting.
And so if you're watching expecting, like, the thing with movies like this where it feels dreamy is like you expect at the very least the end is the closest we're going to get to the real world. It's the exact opposite of that in this movie. Like you do not, it like if the end is supposed to have the answer, then the answer is like, yeah, that was all just straight up real. Like that's like the flat baseline read answer of the movie is like, yeah, it just was all like happening. You know what I mean? Because it ends happening.
Yeah.
It ends
just the world.
It ends with him
movie.
getting killed in this insane court by having his canoe flipped upside down and drowning. Like that is the answer at the end of the movie. And then you watch the crowd slowly filter out of this court theater, and then the credits filter, and then the credits roll. And there's nothing else. Yeah. So like you just slowly do that as well. Like the lights come up in the theater. It's perfect. I love it so much.
I think one thing that I really like about this movie is that kind of as the movie is going on, it's getting more overt with its metaphors. Like going back to the dick monster, for example, like
always got to go back to the dick monster.
I'm always thinking about the dick monster. Like, is the dick monster actually Beau's father, as his mother says?
That was your father.
No, but like also to his mom, all that his dad just could have been like a deadbeat who impregnated her and just left. So to him, like she might as well just be like a fucking dick monster who impregnated her. It's just nothing else.
It's just like it's the manifestation of his worst fear. His two worst fears are his mom and his cock.
Yeah.
He's so scared of having any sexual thought or urge because of her.
Right. I do have a question about how our boy Jeeves just pops back up again there and then tries to kill tries to kill the cock monster.
Just pop back up. They're in the attic at that point, and he's walking outside of the house at attic level.
Yeah. Like he's just on the ground.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's like silliness.
But going back to the very end, I think that it's so the very end, as I've kind of thought about it more and more, just it ties up all of these threads of what Ari is trying to get across with this movie, which is his mother like overbearing and like stunting him emotionally to the point where he was unable to think for himself, like maybe to a point where it made him where he was not able to find agency, perhaps. But that's also the thing that's doing him in, is that he has no autonomy whatsoever for any of his actions that he's done. He's let things just kind of happen to him his entire life. He's let people take advantage of him.
Yeah, he's not the driver of the car.
And he's just kind of letting things happen to him, and then he is feeling guilty for those things, and then asking like, oh well, what do you think is right? What do you think I should do? And the whole point of this movie is to like actually take agency for yourself. It's like to not let life happen around you. It's to actually take some ownership. But then again, the only time that Beau takes agency in this entire movie is probably whenever he's choking his mother at the end of the movie, and that's kind of
a great moment,
the final straw that then leads to the
it's
explosion of everything.
See, to me, it's like it's that, but it's less of like a lesson format and more of just like a character study of like this is just like flat what happens when you have a mom that's overbearing. Like
which again, Ari,
you end up
good, man?
You end up scared to make your own choices for fear of them not approving of them. You know what I mean?
I don't know if part of me feels like Ari Aster wanted to use this movie as a way to work through a lot of problems. And I don't know if he succeeded in doing that.
Well, only
like you still think our boy needs therapy?
I would like to hear from him to see if like that's true at all.
I'd like to hear from his mom.
Because I don't know, because part of me also thinks like maybe he has a great relationship with his mom and he is just like being a fucking storyteller and this is something that he thinks is interesting.
Well, what I would imagine is that it lies somewhere in the realm of like the therapy recordings that are being played to her are not that bad. It's something that like a very like normal person, someone who is not schizophrenic might say about their overbearing mom. Yeah. It's not like he's not telling the most insane mom stories to this therapist. It's just him saying like, yeah, she like stunted my growth by making me scared to make choices. And like that's where like the base truth probably is for him. And, you know, for a lot of people, like it's playing on like what sort of a cultural stereotype of.
Yeah. But the things that the mom says are not, you know, evil movie villain things. Like there are some things that I think get to that point, but she's also just saying like pretty boilerplate manipulative guilt trip
exactly
shit.
They start, that's why it feels more grounded when they're in like the house when she she comes back to life, is because like they're bickering about like awesome. Pretty standard stuff in those moments. Like things come back
Patti
down
LuPone,
to earth.
dude. Like she comes in
fucking good
in the fucking final quarter and just absolutely slays this movie.
She's like a Broadway god. I think she's like probably the most famous Broadway actress who's working right now. And the movie in general, I think it felt like a really cool dynamic of pairing up the most mushmouth guy on earth against all these people who enunciate.
Are you sure? Something happened to my mom?
Dude, in that podcast, I couldn't understand like half the shit.
I know, and that was the most I've ever understood. Like it's really nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good balance. So I want to talk about like toward the end there when we see Stephen McKinley Henderson, he is not playing the lackey who feels sort of bad. He's playing a guy who is flat evil, like almost like comically evil. He's just like giggly, goofy. He's smiling the whole time. This is where like the true truth of the movie comes for me, is that is not a guy who would want to help out Beau in the beginning of the movie. Right. And yet when he's talking to him in the beginning of the movie, before he goes to see his mom, he's sort of cautioning him. He's like, you shouldn't, I wouldn't expect this to go like incredibly. That's like a nugget of actual help that a therapist would give.
But he still gives him the drug.
Well, yes. And then he gives him a new drug. But that's why I think that, like, in my mind, at least, you can draw your own conclusion, but it's pretty cut and dry that this is like a paranoid schizophrenic guy who is seeing a real therapist that is Stephen McKinley Henderson. I think he is going to go see his mom, and then it falls, like something happens. He takes new drug. Everything beyond that is just like a full delusion.
Maybe he does like panic and go out to the corner store, and then he gets hit by the car, and then that's game.
Exactly. Well, it's just like, because from seeing him go back to his house, that he is insane already. Yeah. Like before he takes the new drug, he is a fucking nut. Like if that's the world he sees. But the fact that he then takes a fuckload of the new drug, no water. He
gotta have the water.
Gotta have
this is just like a schizophrenic guy with a really overbearing mom, who like lives in a shithole apartment and like, in New York, he can never really fend for himself, and he's scared of disappointing his mom. Yeah. Like
that's just scared of leaving the house in general.
Yeah, and then everything beyond that, and then you get 2.5 hours of like the worst
delusion.
Yeah, the worst nightmare of how that brain type would synthesize the guilt he's feeling.
Yeah. I do think that I mean, I think that for sure one element of that is definitely right, which is the way that it's presented in the movie is the characters that Beau meets along his journey are then the same characters that work for Beau's mom. And in reality, I feel like it's the inverse. Like he saw these people who work for his mom, like growing up or whatever, being around a factory, whatever it is. And like
he hallucinates.
Yeah. And he just like, that guy like scared me as a kid because of his bone structure. I'm going to imagine him as like the guy who's chasing me down the street that I have to dead sprint inside every time I see him. Like
stabber.
The birthday stabber. It's like things like that I feel like those are just kind of like, that's where he's deriving a lot of these
things just go
from.
like it goes full off rails.
Did you guys see the tweet? I think I screenshot it. I can send it to you. Some guy was like, I don't suffer from mental illness and I have a great relationship with my mom. So Beau Is Afraid did not work for me.
Cool.
And people were just clowning him.
Ready for like I said, can't wait for the bad takes. The bad takes are going to be aplenty.
I said, I don't have a Gabriel growing in the back of my head. So Malignant definitely did not work on me.
Not my cup of tea.
But I feel like there are going to be some really bad faith arguments in that vein. You know, what are you going to do? But I do feel like for what this movie is, it does an incredible job of giving you an idea of what it must be like to suffer from that kind of mental illness. And it also like does justice of portraying like what it's like to have a, you know, kind of manipulative, overbearing parent.
See, that's the thing. Like the words paranoid schizophrenic are never specifically said at any points in this movie.
No, not at
they
all.
might not even like that is just kind of what you would be led to assume that his mental disorder is that he has. But this also could just be dream logic. It could just not be like a mental illness in the same way that like we have that exists in our world. Nothing else in this movie is of this world. So why would that necessarily be the same either?
Right. A couple stray comments. Joaquin's facial acting is absolutely phenomenal. The way he kind of goes beet red when he's just having a full on freak out moment and just is straining his face.
He's like a real actor.
It is phenomenal. Absolutely incredible work.
I've been thinking about his face whenever he's getting the phone call about his mom, and like it just lingers on from so long, and it's so subtle. Every little micro expression that he is doing of just like
he's working
hearing of trauma. Like, I don't know what that day on set was like and how many takes they had to do of it, but it's just like what he captures in there, which, you know, Joaquin has experienced some trauma in his life, folks. So maybe it's deriving a lot on that, but everything in those scenes is unbelievable. It's always the little stuff with Joaquin that impresses me the most than like him going more over the top. Of
Which
course,
he does. He does in this movie. He goes big.
He's able to go big. He's able to do the freakouts. But like that's why it was always funny, like him winning Best Actor for something like Joker, because Joker is like
that's so crazy.
He is great. He is great.
I know he's awesome.
He's awesome in that movie, but that movie like. It kind of doesn't get what makes Joaquin Phoenix the special actor, which is the ironic part about
he's really funny too in this. Like that face that he makes at the end when he's running away from the house. He's
oh my god,
that's the weirdest fucking face.
It's like that shit scared me.
It's you just see like the whites of his teeth almost. It's horrifying.
It's so
his eyes and his teeth just like glowing.
It's really good.
Yeah,
it's
he's
really
incredible.
Good.
Him and Ari was just a good matchup because it's two dudes who are allowed and also want to take risks with what they're doing. Like very non-standard choices coming from both of them.
It's a great fit. A couple Avengers Endgame cheer moments for me. Obviously Richard Kind. Obviously Nathan Lane. Like
I was worried that we were only going to get Richard Kind's voice throughout this. I'm glad that we saw him at the very end.
The back of Bill Hader's head as the UPS man.
Do we have it confirmed that he wasn't the UPS man on the phone?
That was not Bill Hader's
because
voice.
It wasn't.
No,
I would have. He talks for so long.
Voice.
I would have recognized Bill Hader's voice in that. That or my guy's getting good with voice work or something like that. Because I don't. There's no way.
And also, little Gandolfini.
Oh yeah, Michael.
Michael Gandolfini. That's one
Many
of the
Saints
sons.
of Newark fame.
Yeah. I
Cool.
did a small ovation.
Happy for you.
For him.
Yeah.
So yeah. Any other cameos? Did we miss any? That
It is funny that like I guess not everybody who clamored for this movie ahead of time was in the movie, like specifically Martin Scorsese and Nathan Fielder. But it is funny that some of the people, like celebrities at the premiere, who were like, this movie is going to change everything, it's a masterpiece, were Bill Hader, who's in this movie, and Mariah Carey, who has a needle drop in this movie.
always be my baby.
Man, always be one of the best needle drops in years. It's so good. We're going to have to add a needle drop of Bammy just for the always be my baby.
It will make you jizz and kill someone. Okay, real quick before we wrap up, you did want to shout out the director draft, which we can do a longer segment on this some other time. But Hunter
just wanted to brag.
You did have Ari Aster,
And who else did I have from last year?
Damien Chazelle.
Yeah, that's right. That's
and
right,
Jordan Peele.
I just wanted to bring that up. Yeah,
with
okay.
Nope.
Okay, cool.
You also had Ryan Johnson, Glass Onion.
there you go.
Coogler, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever.
Okay, all right. Well, he's gonna bounce back. He's out of the Marvel machine
Barry
now.
Jenkins, who did Underground Railroad, which we have yet to see. Sorry, Barry.
Love you,
The
Barry.
Coen brothers. We got a Tragedy of Macbeth there. You got.
Do I get that because one Cohen made it?
You get half of it.
I get half. I get the half that wasn't boring.
James Mangold.
Hey,
Indiana Jones.
Hey, there we go. That's coming. All right.
Wes Anderson, French Dispatch, Asteroid City,
Asteroid City coming soon. We'll see.
and Lulu Wong, who I don't think has done anything.
Has not done anything since the farewell.
That
but
bums me out.
It does bum me out. Maybe soon.
So yeah, you get
Mostly
you get
just
Beau.
wanted to brag about Damien and Ari.
You get Beau on there.
I get Beau.
Drew, this is what you got. Denis Villeneuve, Dune Part 2
Mm-hmm.
coming. The Safdies, we know they're
Nice.
with the
You
Sandman
got-
again.
You had Uncut Gems because we did it before Uncut.
No,
Oh,
this
was
I
it
think-
post Uncut?
This was famously the last episode
That's right.
we recorded before
and
the
then
pandemic.
a pandemic happened. This episode set off ripples.
Yeah. You got Bong, director Bong.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. He hasn't done anything yet, but
David Fincher, Mank.
dude, you got Mank.
Oh, I got
You
that.
got Mank.
Lord and Miller, After Party.
Nice.
Taika Waititi.
All right.
Mexico wins coming.
Your favorite movie of last year, Thor: Love and Thunder.
Chris Nolan,
Let's go.
Oppenheimer.
You got
Oppie.
Tenet.
I got Oppie.
Garland, Alex Garland, Devs, Men.
Oh,
You gotta see
brother.
Men, dude.
Dude, I talk about a movie that
Not
is
not,
up its own ass.
not gonna check it out.
Don't.
Noah Baumbach, White Noise, Barbie coming.
Slay.
Well, does
And,
he get that's writing credit. It's not a
It's just a little tick, tick. And then Alfonso Cuarón,
Mm.
who knows when that fucker's gonna come back. All right, I'll breeze through mine so we can end this. Bobby the Eggman,
You got a Northman last year.
Northman, Greta Gerwig,
Nice.
Paul Thomas Anderson,
Facts.
It's a good one.
Matt Reeves,
Nice.
Trey Edward Schultz, who we recently discovered is a mutual friend. It's like 1 degree of separation.
We gotta get Trey on the pod.
Yeah.
I want to tell him about how we love Waves.
Yeah.
We and 12 other people love the movie Waves.
Yorgos Lanthimos.
Oh, nice. Coming soon.
Yeah. Bo Burnham, Edgar Wright, Chris McQuarrie,
Nice.
and Steven Spielberg. Don't have the Fablemans.
Oh, nice. I do one last question for you guys. Beau Is Afraid, especially after seeing the movie, is a great title.
Yeah.
Is it better than Disappointment Boulevard?
I was a hater. I was thinking that they made a mistake because I really like Disappointment Boulevard. I think this title works very well.
I think it's way better in my opinion.
Beau is definitely afraid.
What the fuck is Disappointment Boulevard?
I loved Disappointment
That's like
Boulevard.
if this was
I
a book,
fucking-
then go ahead. But this is a movie. It has to say something about what it's about.
See, I don't know. I think
what is
I think
is it in the movie?
It was a Licorice Pizza kind of situation where like
Yeah, that's a stupid movie
It's
title.
a worse title than the original
Soggy Bottom.
than Soggy Bottom. Soggy Bottom is a better movie title than Licorice Pizza.
No,
I do like Beau Is Afraid over
like Beau Is
Disappointment
Afraid.
Boulevard. Disappointment
This
Boulevard.
movie, it made me afraid.
I got scared.
I was
It
afraid.
definitely made
I got
Beau afraid.
spooked.
Yeah. So thank you, Ari Aster, A24, Joaquin, for this great movie. I think people are going to be talking about it for a long time. I can't wait to hear other people's thoughts on it, other takes, other theories. I think there's a lot to dig into with this one. So yeah, let us know what you thought of our thoughts, and follow us and rate us and review us and subscribe to us and like us and comment us and do all those things that you need to do to keep up with the show. Visit webottomike.net, become a donor, join the Discord. Next week, we got a special catch up with a special guest. Very fun, wild episode we did for you there.
Get Lucy.
It's almost Earth Day. You know, what can I say? I'm getting loose.
And we're on the tail end of Robin with Man of the Year.
Nice.
And what else? Guardians? Little Fast X?
TBD on Guardians, okay? The last few Marvels have left something to be desired,
Yeah.
so.
That's, not too
We're about
much.
to get into the good summer movie season, though.
When is Indiana Jones? That's June, right?
I think so. It's earlier on the season.
Yeah. I'm just trying to see, like, in terms of more indie fare, because I think, we'll see. But yeah, tail end of Robin, only 4 left in Robin. And then on to the next series, which we will unveil
Which
soon.
is TBD.
We're planning it.
TBA.
It's being planned.
TBA.
Currently under construction.
TVT.
All right. Thank you. We love you. Beau, bye.
Bye.